If you dare put Ru at the end of that Kira Kira, I'm leaving. As usual, we open with a recap of last week, though not with the usual happy banner because clearly things were going to be a lot more serial this week. Guaiwaru thanked the Precure for dealing with the king and was now ready to move on to the next phase of his plan, which involved absorbing 10 megaparts. Oh yeah, those were kind of a thing, weren't they? I wonder how many he plucked from that poor palm tree mega. As usual, not only did it give him a significant power-up, but also some rare spiffy new duds. So with that, the big dude had achieved his final form and was getting ready for his final battle with the protagonist. Oh boy, dude, you're raising so many death flags that Galvatron may as well come out right now and comment on how you have a below average sense of humor. Yeah, don't worry, the preview kind of gave away that twist. Anyway, King Guaiwaru, as he referred to himself as, I'm just gonna stick with Guaiwaru to save up on syllables, revealed his plans to both the Precure as well as his cohorts who had finally come back from their rather long coffee break. Well, to be fair, he's not wrong. But yeah, sure enough, he had set it up so that the Precure and King Byogen fought each other, hoping that one, or preferably both, would destroy each other. And in a nice subtle bit, he points specifically at Hinata as she was essentially the key to all of this. Of course, Shindoinen didn't believe that her king had been defeated while she was gone. Yeah, well, maybe next time you shouldn't take so damn long with your makeup, lady. Also, you don't look any different. That said, it does make me wonder, where did the king go? Again, I don't think I'm spoiling anything when I say the king is coming back next week, but where would he be able to go that even his biggest fangirl couldn't sense him? I mean, what? Is he hiding inside the kingdom or something, or... Oh. You know, I don't really intend to do the obvious Starscream reference, but I'm starting to wonder, are we going to go full on 1986 movie before this is all over? Anyway, Shindoinen went off to look for her king, while Darizen did the most Darizen thing possible and expressed his total indifference as to who his boss was, as long as he could continue to infect the Earth. Thus, Guaiwaru decided to show his new underling what he was capable of. The resulting fight was not bad, though not great either. Some parts look especially bad, with Guaiwaru just standing around and delivering some very obvious repeated frames. Though, I will give some leeway because 1, next week is clearly where they're putting a lot of their efforts towards, and 2, the one-on-one fight between Hinata and Guaiwaru was actually pretty good. Again, not great animation, but just the intensity of an angry Hinata trying to land a hit on the guy who played her like a fiddle was exciting. The fact that she held out better than all of her teammates, including Asumi, really sold it. However, she was clearly outmatched and not even a 4-way attack could stop him. Hinata and Asumi did try to use some decent teamwork to land a surprise attack, but once again, the new king not only tanked her finisher, but completely redirected it. Though strangely enough, in spite of clearly doing damage to their surroundings, Hinata's attack didn't leave behind any sort of noticeable damage. This detail would come into play later, as first the Cures had to make a hasty retreat with a dust cloud. Of course, Guaiwaru didn't have the patience to look for them, and instead decided to start flexing his new muscles on Earth. The Precure regrouped and tried to figure out their next course of action.
That is not a plan!
It's barely a concept.
Yeah, appreciate the enthusiasm, Nodoka, but that plan might not exactly work against Guaiwaru, who was already infecting Skoyaka with a ton of Mega Byogens. Noticeably, he hadn't created Gigas, which I guess makes sense for his character, as I can't see him being patient enough to go look for human victims, but still, it would up the drama a little. I don't know, maybe they'll save it for next week. Though, before we get there, we had to have Hinata's big character moment, which yes, I'm saying with some big air quotes. I mean, don't get me wrong, I appreciate Hinata acknowledging her mistake here, but again, I don't think this scene is hitting me quite like it should. So, last week, I expressed how I wasn't completely sold on Hinata ever being overly fearful of everyone's safety, even asking for examples of such, which some of you actually responded by pointing out the Bachi Tomota debut episodes, which, yeah, okay, I kind of forgot about those. But, in my defense, I don't think there was a particularly strong, or at least memorable resolution to that plotline, mostly because there wasn't a whole lot between Hinata and the rodent, especially since the latter was swiftly taken out by Asumi. Now granted, the rushing of that plotline might have had to do with the pandemic hiatus, but I also wonder how much of a difference it actually made to their original plans for Hinata specifically. As I said before, this character seems to show signs of ADHD, which of course is a subject matter that can't be approached callously, but overall they really haven't done much with it, and in turn Hinata herself. It's all kind of a part of the unfortunate fate of many of her group. Unlike, say, pink or blue cures who have pre-established characteristics that are often followed, the yellows seem to be treated like the wild cards, of which writers tend to experiment very different traits for Precure in general. As a result, there's often a lot of hits and misses when it comes to these characters with not a lot of middle ground. For the record, I actually do like Yuko, but I can also understand why some don't care for her. The point is, yellow cures like Hinata often lack good build-up to these big moments, mostly due to the writers not knowing how to approach their experimental traits. If she had just a few more episodes where she had made some significant mistakes that somehow left her team at a disadvantage, then this might have hit a little harder. Now again, the pandemic hiatus might have also prevented some crucial Hinata episodes from being produced, as even kind of evidenced by this scene where, in order to cheer her up, Nodoka brought up a rather random reference to episode 11 where Hinata's cry for help kind of saved the day, but I would hardly call that a big moment for Hinata herself. Again, I have no solid proof for this, but it does make me think that they were supposed to reference an unproduced episode that would have provided a much better character moment for her. Overall, right now at least, I would say Hinata is one of the very few middle ground yellows in that she is very average. I mean, she has enough personality that I won't consider her a bad character, but also not quite enough ties to the main plot of this show that I would consider her great either. Another thing that kind of works for Hinata was, as always, her healing animal partner who managed to cheer her up. And I will say, among all of these pairings, these two have probably the most natural and organic friendship, so I could totally buy Nyatran being able to cheer her up. With that, they now had to figure out a way out of the Byoken Kingdom.
Phrasing?
Surprisingly though, that line that somehow got past the censors actually kind of worked as Lotte recollected Hinata's disappearing energy. They theorized it was the result of some parts of the dimension being weaker than others, and if they concentrated their attacks on such a spot, they could basically pull a Majin Buu. Of course, the issue was, where could they find such a weak spot? Best be careful, girls. That little doggy might lead you to the Ark of the Covenant and a PG-rated face melting scene. PG was very different in my time. Nah, of course, it was the elementals sending them an SOS which they could follow back to Earth. However, they first had to deal with a certain half-awake villain who at least wasn't going to let them go so easily. More specifically, he wasn't going to let his favorite plaything go. This led to a rather short tussle that just kind of ended after the Cures managed to use their arrows to punch a dimensional hole. Though, I will say, I'm at least liking the clear build-up they're doing for the final battle between these two, which, if anything else in this show, I'm really looking forward to. With that, the episode ended with the Precure back in town and getting ready for their big final fight. As a transitional and build-up episode to what's obviously going to be one of the final battles of the season, this episode was fine in spite of some subpar animation that they're clearly saving up for next week. But as what's likely the conclusion to Hinata's arc, this was pretty underwhelming. Once again, Guaiwaru was one of the best parts of this episode, as while his ultimate fate is pretty much written in stone by this point, at least he's gonna go out with an awesome design and coming off as a genuine threat. And while I wish the animation could have illustrated this better, him just curb stomping our heroines in of itself was very impressive. What wasn't as impressive was, of course, our other spotlight character of this episode. As much as I do really like Hinata's personality, I gotta say, she had one of the weaker Yellow Cure arcs ever. I mean, I don't want to be too harsh, as I do truly believe there had to have been episodes featuring her that just couldn't be made for one reason or another. Still, judging by what we were given, it was insubstantial to say the least. If we had just been given more moments of her genuinely messing up and regretting her actions, then this scene would have rung a lot harder. I still like the character, and especially her friendship with Nyatran, but otherwise, this key needed to learn a few more tricks. That said, I am looking forward to next week, especially if some of my theories about the king end up coming true. Who knows, maybe he won't just infect the world, he might also have it as a snack. If you haven't seen it yet, in place of my usual Doremi review, I took a look at the latest Precure crossover film, Miracle Leap. I'm honestly surprised how quickly I managed to get a video done, but I guess that just shows how much I really enjoyed this film. Definitely check out my review, and of course the film itself. I'm personally picking up a copy of the Blu-ray. Enjoy it, as well as all of my other upcoming videos. And until next time though, farewell for now my friends, and yeah dude, maybe you should forgo the coronation and all that, just saying, too late.